This is it.
The water was also an extension cord, half of which had been burnt away.
Did the cord get...
Seems that cord has the misfortune of floating around the wrong place at the wrong time.
From what I saw in my investigation, the building's extension cord supply seems to be kept in... So in a way, yeah.
Storage closet D. It was hard to make out much of it in the dark, and after the power came on. But I do recall seeing some extension cords peeking out from behind the shelf.
Since we already know the killer raided one storage closet, anyone else willing to bet they raided this one too?
The hell did they need an extension cord for?
Probably something involving the generator. Given its proximity.
Same thing with the red bits. Even though we don't know what they are.
This is it.
Hold that thought. We may be able to identify the shrapnel during the investigation. There was a strange smell permeating the boiler room. Well, the best way to describe the scent would be if you mix
cereal and alcohol? Talk about specific.
Tis a sign of chemical reaction.
Wait, you recognize the smell?
Chemical reactions can produce some pretty pungent odors. Usually something to the tune of alcohol mixed with cereal, or fruits, or eggs. I noticed the smell going into the investigation, but it had completely...
Could it be a chemical reaction was caused?
The gun never touched the water. There's no reason for it to be the source of the smell.
What about the generator?
Considering the state of it, that generator would smell more burnt.
If the chemical reaction can't be explained by what we already know, like the generator, that the explanation is the one piece of evidence still...
Can someone translate this into less...
It was just a long-winded way of saying he's using process of elimination.
I know it sounds like a stretch, but if you follow this line of reasoning, think about it. If the smell and shrapnel are linked, then whatever object the shrapnel belongs to...
So we're looking for a metal object, which is also packed with chemicals?
Surely something like that would be kept inside the pharmacy.
Looking at my notes, when we originally visited the pharmacy, I recorded everything I saw. A bright red metal object would have definitely caught my eye, but
I got lots of metallic objects in the dorm room, but nothing chemical.
It has to be you!
Jet, I need to ask you something.
What's up?
Can you tell me what's inside your dorm room?
Like, a full-on list?
Whatever works.
I got a pretty gnarly collection of parts and accessories. Blind spot mirrors, lithium batteries, wheels, spare brakes. I even have the legendary mantle from the 1984's Grand...
That's what I was hoping to hear.
Cool! So, unless Wait. No. Don't try to rope me into this, bro. I've got nothing to do with the murder.
I know you don't. You have an out. The only reason I ask is because that mysterious red shrapnel may be the remnants of one of your lithium batteries.
What?
I see. A lithium battery might explode.
And lithium, if it made contact with water, gosh, you'd be left with a mess and a half.
Wouldn't someone have heard an explosion, though?
I did.
Really?
During the tournament. Right?
Oi, that's right.
Wait!
I initially assumed the generator made the noise somehow. But if Jet's car batteries contain an explosive...
Hey, Jet, were your batteries bright red at all?
You don't know for sure?
I never took the batteries out of their packaging. The packaging isn't red, I can tell you that, but the actual batteries?
So it can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt?
Pretty much.
Well, what's the reaction time of a lithium battery? When a lithium battery hits the water, how long does it take to combust? I think, once we know that, we can decide whether or not the battery is relevant to the case.
A lithium battery would be an almost instantaneous reaction.
Lithium isn't a metal I've worked with, but it got beat into my head never. All that electricity, the battery would have let out when it hit the water.
There's warning labels on the battery for a reason.
Okay. If the reaction is instantaneous, then the battery would have entered the water only seconds before the generator. That's really weird.
Is it?
According to Diana's testimony, when the explosion happened, she was still holding the taser gun. In which case, who threw the battery into the water?
Huh. We can rule out Wolfgang, since the Blackens can only be a student who kills another student.
It was only Diana and Wolfgang in the boiler room. So unless Diana herself was the one to throw the battery, then the battery can't play a part in the murder.
I didn't throw the bat.
The battery is related to the case. Only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut. Lifting a battery would hurt too much.
Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen from somewhere, so it must have been submerged another way. Perhaps something akin to what Eva described?
If that battery is the murder weapon, why is there a taser gun?
Maybe it's a red herring.
Judging by the shrapnel, the battery would have landed in the water, a few inches from the generator.
Not the hardest shot to make.
If the battery is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut. Lifting a battery would hurt too much.
Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen.
No, that's wrong!
No. The battery might actually have fallen from the generator.
What makes you say that?
The shrapnel's position in front of the generator suggests there's a correlation. However, it's unlikely Diana. Not only is the boiler room difficult to see in, the generator is positioned far enough from the concrete that Diana, with her wounded arm, would need to stand on the platforms, which would obviously put her in danger of being attacked.
Yeah, Wolfgang was really close.
If the battery hadn't been thrown, the only other possibility is that it fell down into the water. And considering the layout of the boiler room, what else could the battery fall off of? Except the generator.
Are you saying the battery was sitting on top of the generator?
I got it.
The battery may have been suspended over.
This is it.
The killer could have tied the extension cord around the battery and slung the battery over the generator. If the cord and battery were tied together at the time of the generator's explosion, it would explain why half of the cord had been burned away.
The more you explain it, the more unbelievable.
What if that's the point? Maybe the killer chose a crazy method.
I don't see how weaving a cord into the mix is any more beneficial than, if anything, the cord adds extra weight.
Which would be especially inconvenient for Diana.
Right. It wouldn't benefit Diana to hold the cord, so what if she didn't? Something else may have been supporting the cord instead.
I got it.
Throughout this trial, we've assumed the killer held the battery in some form, or if the battery was on its own, the killer tossed it in. If the battery was wrapped with a cord, the killer held. But in the same way something else can hold the battery, can't something else also?
Ugh, my head's starting to spin.
Are you talking about something which could keep the cord in place?
This is it.
The killer tied the cord to the vent. The one above the generator. It connects the boiler room and the dining hall.
There's a vent above the generator?
You should remember sunlight shining into the boiler room. The vent itself is set a bit far back into the wall, so you probably assume the spot was a small one.
If the boiler room and the dining hall are separated by one vent, does this make the wall pic?
There's two vents. The boiler room vent and the dining hall vent. I was able to get a close look at the boiler room vent after Ava and I woke up, which is why
How close is close for someone under 6 foot?
Ava helped me reach the vent,
By?
letting me sit on her shoulders.
Quite the visual.
Anyway, if the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent and the other end around the battery,
Something like that would result in.
what do you mean?
You say the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent, and however, indoor extension cords are much longer than regular cords. They can be upwards of 9 or more meters in length, as opposed to the average cord's 2 meters. 9 meters is significantly longer than the distance between the vent and the boiler. If the killer wanted to tie the battery to the cord's other end, they would be tying it to something which is already submerged.
I see. It is an impossible setup.
I got it.
The extension cord is pretty thin and flimsy. If the killer wanted the battery to be secure, they need to wrap a lot of cord, probably to the point there wouldn't be much spare cord remaining. Which is a good thing, because the spare cord is what the battery will be suspended by. So long as the spare cord isn't too long, the battery will sit safely above the water.
So much.
Agreed. How do you even submerge the battery into the water under the...
This is it.
Like I mentioned earlier, I gave the vent a close look after originally waking up in the boiler room. Part of my inspection included opening the vent to get a better look at the other side.
The vent can be opened?
Not all the way, but far enough for the vent to cause a domino effect if then closed. In our case, a domino effect involving the extension. If we assume the vent must be open for the battery to remain a safe distance above the water, we end up with a pulley system to prevent the battery from entering the water. The vent is literally pulling the entire cord back. Ergo, it's not just the killer's own measurements keeping the battery in place, but the... Having opened one of these vents before, I can tell you how tough they are to move. A lightweight battery definitely isn't heavy enough to pull one shut. It takes an actual person to close, which is great for the killer, because it means they get to maintain full control over when the battery... If they close the vent, the cord should slide forward and submerge the battery into the water. When that happens, the boiler room water becomes electrified by the battery's component, which in turn causes electricity to pass directly into the body of Wolf.
Exactly which vent is the cord being tied to?
The boiler room vent.
Earlier, you said there's a small vent shaft connecting the boiler. Assuming the killer is operating this trap from outside the boiler room, since we know there were only ever 2 people in that room, how would they even be able to reach the boiler room vent? Like you said, there's a separate vent in front of it.
This could only mean one thing. The killer never tied the cord to the boiler room vent. They tied the cord to the dining hall vent.
That just creates the same problem as before, but reversed. Instead of the dining hall vent making it hard to close the boiler room vent, it's the boiler room vent making it hard to reach the dining hall vent.
While the vents may seem like an obstruction, especially since they can't be opened all the way, there's a very easy workaround. All the killer needs to do is fit the extension cord between the grates of the boiler room vent.
Oh yeah, the grates. Right! When you described opening the boiler room vent. If you can fit your fingers between the grates, there's no damn way you can't fit a...
Exactly. After which, you could slide the cord through the ventilator for the killer to then go and tie to the...
Actually... Hello?
What is it now?
There's something I still don't understand about your theory. It's to do with the logistics of the cord.
The logistics?
Its size. I understand the boiler room vent can be opened. Maybe not all the way, but enough to fit an extension cord through. What's bothering me, however, is that the boiler room vent was closed during the investigation, which means it must have been closed during the murder.
I don't see a problem here. The killer doesn't even need to open that vent, because they could simply slide the cord between the grates.
Indoor extension cords may be thin, but the plugs on either side of them aren't. How can the killer fit both those plugs between the gaps in the vent grate. Either the boiler room vent was never involved, or it was open at some point, and someone else closed it. That is my issue. Indoor extension cords may be thin, but the plugs on either side of them aren't.
I'll cut through those words!
If you insert the cord through the boiler room vent first, it's possible to fit the cord through. You just need to start with the internal plug. The cords in storage closet D have a slim internal end. This can easily be slid through the gaps in the vent. Once the killer ties the cord around the dining hall vent, presumably with a knot, the cord...
I see. When put like that, whether or not the boiler room vent was closed isn't...
How'd you figure all this out from some shrapnel and an extension cord?
At the same time, what he's describing sounds...
Since the battery was suspended over the generator, it's no surprise the machine ended up. Fortunately for Diana, she was safe by virtue of remaining on the platform. I imagine that was also...
The killer kept her on the platform?
They must have known they were injecting Wolfgang with a hallucinogenic. So, it's possible they hoped his behavior would scare Diana. Although, even if Diana did die, the moment people realized only she and Wolfgang entered the boiler room, they probably call the whole thing a murder gone wrong.
Well, all of this certainly changes things.
Huh?
If the killer is someone who needed access to the vent and needed to be operating from the then everyone who attended the tournament is a suspect.
What?
Huh? No way!
We can reduce it down to 8 people. Damon, Kai, Grace, Eva, Cassidy, Jed.
It was probably Cassidy. She set the whole thing up.
Hey, I was only trying to improve the mood.
It wasn't me. I was playing a game with Damon when the lights went out.
I had to play music.
Me too.
You never touched my equipment.
I meant I was watching Kai and Damon play.
I was spectating as well.
Me too.
Me 3. And Cass too? I was too focused on the game to remember who was or wasn't there.
If everyone's telling the truth, then all 8 of y'all were
near the right wall where the TV was set up. It's also the furthest wall from...
Seems like someone is lying again.
It has to be you!
The killer is Ava.
Huh?
Ava's the only one whose position I can't account for. Mark was mixing a track at the time Kai and I were playing a game, so I know he must have been stationed at his pad. And everyone else? I remember hearing their voices over the sound of everyone. In fact, last I saw her, she was standing in the corner of the room with the vent.
So Ava flipped the vent?
Oh man! And the reason no one heard it is...
Don't blame me. I was just doing what I was told.
No one's blaming you. We're all...
Care to contribute anything, Eva?
I didn't flip the vent.
Well, Damon said...
Damon says a lot of things.
While you aren't technically wrong...
His theory is full of plot holes. He just refuses to point them out.
What plot holes?
The cord.
What?
In retrospect, you were so quick to accuse me that you overlooked a huge problem with the cord. If I'm the killer, how did I dispose of it?
Trick question. You left the cord tied to the vent.
What then? It unraveled by itself and fell into the water?
Yeah, you got me.
I got it. To dispose of the cord, you just untied it during...
She untied the knot during a blackout?
Being the one who set up the trap, Ava could have easily practiced untying the knot in advance. Or she just made it a really simple knot. Either way, it wouldn't be any more difficult than untying your shoelaces with your eyes closed.
If Ava untied the cord, did it also...
Diana's testimony says as much.
It does?
During your confrontation with Wolfgang, you recounted hearing certain... The first sound was obviously the battery explode. And the second, when you first recounted the story, you said it was the sound of the knife hitting the wall. But why would a thin knife make such a big splash?
Then, do you...
What really caused that sound was probably the extension cord falling into the water.
When you say it that way, it does seem likelier.
I should have known. The kid who lied about her talents and tried to lie about the toes and trinkets. I should have known. I should have known only Eva fucking Sadaka would tell Wolfgang!
You're right that Eva's lied to us several times already.
But she's just a mathlete. How did someone like her come up with something this complicated?
Her talent would give her the upper hand in all that measurement nonsense.
Even so, the sheer volume of items Eva had to steal. She's been under heavy suspicion these past few days. How did she sneak into Jet and Desmond's rooms?
It's impossible. Wolfgang even got mad at me for being late to the dining hall by a few minutes. I've been watched the entire time I've been here. There's no way Jet wouldn't have noticed me taking his battery.
Right on. No one steals from me.
They already did.
And anyway, how could I enter the cord through the boiler room vent when I can't even reach the top of the generator? If anything, you should be suspicious of the taller students.
This is it. Ava, to reach the top of the generator, you simply stood on one of the boxes in the boiler room. There's already a huge pile of them near the generator itself. You could easily push one.
She would have known about those boxes in advance, too.
Okay, I could have used the boxes to reach the top, and I could have fit the cord through both vents if I can do both of those things without attracting suspicion. What I can't do without attracting suspicion...
Huh? Which vent are we talking about?
The dining hall one. Based on what Damon's saying, it needs to be opened for the killer's trap to work. But opening it during the tournament is asking to be caught, and opening it before the tournament is useless because Jet, Cassidy, and...
Oh, if there was an open vent with a cord tied to it, I would have noticed for sure.
Now that Eva mentions it, I'm pretty sure the vent was closed during setup.
See, there's no way I can execute this trap without being caught. It's a stupid trap anyway. All the cord and vent stuff is too complicated. There's a billion ways it could go wrong. Damon's just making stuff up. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
What the? That's bullshit!
Can it, you four-eyed troll! You can't talk your way out of this one! The only person who would be sick-minded enough to kill Wolfgang is you? Don't you fucking try and tell me otherwise!
You can't say I'm the murderer just because I sat near a vent.
It seems to be pretty good evidence to me.
Wolfgang exposed you for the snake you are, and you despised him because of it. You have a motive!
Perhaps our understanding of the mechanism is wrong. Maybe it wasn't closing the vent that triggered it, but something else?
Do you have any evidence to prove that?
Even if this trap was used, you can't guarantee it operated the way Damon described.
How so?
Well, the battery could have been tied to the extension cord, with a special knot which can untie by itself after a bit of time passes.
There's even less evidence for that!
Evidence? No one here cares about evidence. I just happened to be at the game tournament, and now you're saying I'm a killer. You can't say I'm the murderer just because I sat near a vent.
It seems to...
How so? Well, the battery could have been tied to the extension cord, with a special knot which can untie by itself after a bit of time passes.
For that!
Evidence. No one here cares about evidence. I just happened to be at the game tournament.
No, that's wrong!
No. It's no coincidence you were at the game tournament. In fact, it's not even a coincidence the tournament took place.
What do you mean?
It was impossible for me to notice this earlier. But the killer timed the tournament so it...
Whoa! Are you accusing me of murder again? I thought you said Ava was the culprit.
The detective isn't supposed to switch suspects in the last stretch like this. You're totally throwing me.
Except neither of you played a role in determining what time the tournament would be held. The only person to determine that Ava knew she would be in the dining hall tomorrow. So when Cassidy announced the tournament, she realized it was to create an alibi for herself.
That's insane. How could she have come up with something like that on the spot?
It wasn't just for an alibi either. Since Ava knew about the tournament, she...
I got it.
Cassidy, you told me Ava approached you yesterday. What exactly did she say?
When did I tell you this?
Before the tournament?
Oh, now I remember. Yeah, Eva wanted to see what sort of equipment the tournament needed. After I showed her Mark's stuff and told her we were redecorating the dining hall, she offered to help.
Back when this conversation happened, you still hadn't decided what time you were going to start redecorating.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. Eva really helped me out, though. She said she would stack the dining hall furniture we weren't going to use later. Afterwards, we could focus purely on arranging the technical stuff.
All right. Then tell me what happened last.
Jet, Mark, Eva, and I came to the dining hall we stacked the table and the dining chairs against the left wall, and the sofas we moved to the middle. Then we all went back to our dorms. Well, I was kind of hungry, so I stayed back a few minutes before leaving.
Hold the phone. If those sofa chairs were moved to the middle of the room, why'd I see one over in the corner this...
Because Eva pushed it there.
Eva what?
She didn't want to take part in the tournament. Just watch it from the side. That's what she told me. I never thought it was weird or anything. Some people just like sticking to the walls of rooms, you know?
We're talking about the sofa in the upper left corner, aye? The one next to...
Yes, sir.
Yo, when the power went out, I'm pretty sure Damon ran over to that corner to look through.
Did she move the chair there so it would be easier to reach the vent later?
Why would I when Cassidy just said the vent was closed during...
Because you were covering for yourself in advance.
Huh?
The vent may not have been open at the time, but I'm willing to bet that's because you were still creating your trap. Let's say Ava took a detour for the boiler room first, and slid the internal plug after going upstairs and helping rearrange the dining hall furniture, during which she moves a sofa chair. She heads outside and hides until everyone else goes to bed. Then, she walks...
So Eva took complete advantage of them?
Not my fault those two are so trusting.
You think a big guy like me was gonna be afraid of some mathlete?
I mean, she did lie about her talent being...
She also cried and fled the scene after we found out, no?
I just thought it was cool. She wanted to help me out.
Hey, can we backtrack a little? Like, to before all...
Why?
It's to do with the chair's position. You guys keep saying it was in front of the vent, but Damon stood in front of the vent during the blackout. If the chair was in the position you all say it was, it should have blocked him from crouching in front of the vent.
Ava probably just moved it during the blackout.
Eh?
Before the blackout, it was positioned with its back to the left wall. However, when I ran over to the vent, the chair was suddenly pushed up against the northern wall. Ava must have shifted the chair while everyone was initially panicking from the blackout. I'm guessing she hoped people would misremember its position and think it was always along the northern wall.
Oh, man!
I also remember seeing a speaker in that corner.
Yeah, about that. This morning, Jet, Mark, and I arrived at the dining hall a little after 8 a.m. She helped us put together Mark's equipment, which was stationed in the lower right corner of the room. And then she volunteered to place speakers around the room while Jet and I set up the TV next to...
Moving a speaker near the vent. Did Eva do that to drown out Diana and Wolfgang's scuffle?
Yeah, and in turn exacerbate the effects of the other speakers. There were almost a dozen spread throughout the dining hall. Some even sandwiched into corners they didn't need to be. Ava probably placed them that way to cover as much ground as possible.
Eva entered the dining hall at 8:10 a.m., right? So wouldn't it be impossible for her to knock out Loya?
According to Ava, she arrived around 8:10 a.m. But it's possible she actually arrived since there's no clock in the dining hall. He just couldn't have no... In fact, that might be why Ava seemed so eager to arrange Mark's equipment. Upon realizing it had a clock, she wanted to ensure it would only be powered on.
It seems the setup of this trap occurred across 3. Phase 1 took place in the boiler room and involved tying a lithium battery to an extension. The cord was then slid through the grates of the closed boiler room vent, presumably until it almost poked out. Phase 2, by contrast, was carried out in the dining hall. The aforementioned cord was tied around the dining hall vent, which was then left open. This must have happened after Cassidy, Mark, and Jet were already done redecorating. For the third and final phase, the battery was carefully suspended over the generator. All these steps combined created a pulley system, which could only be triggered by closing the dining hall vent. Is there anything?
How I closed the vent.
Huh?
No one has explained how I closed the dining hall vent. Obviously, I didn't do it during the blackout. According to Damon, the blackout can only happen after the vent is closed. So, I must have stood up, gone behind the chair, and closed the vent during the tournament. That's stupid. Someone is definitely going to notice that sort of conspicuous movement. It doesn't matter if that someone is on the opposite side of the room. They're going to notice.
How did he overlook such an obvious discrepancy?
Hey, the tournament equipment is innocent!
Who cares if the music was loud? That doesn't stop.
This is it.
The location of your chair bypasses this problem entirely. Today's event, all you need to do is set the chair to recline.
Set the chair to...
All the dining hall chairs have the ability to recline. Some were already set to that position at the start of the tournament, including Ava's. With her chair in recline, Ava can easily reach down and close the vent without shifting from her position. It's not perfectly inconspicuous, but it's subtle enough to not catch most people's attention, especially those focused on watching a video game competition. Well?
This isn't funny. Just because I was sitting in front of the vent doesn't mean I was the one who triggered the mechanism.
No one can sneak up behind you without drawing attention, especially when all the lights were still on.
That's just dumb! Where I was sitting shouldn't make me a murderer.
Even so, with everything we've spoken about...
Everything? Did you already forget what was said earlier? Just look at all the items I would need to set up this murder. The battery, the extension cord, the rolling pin, the taser, the syringe, and the supposed drug used with it. How could I have Wolfgang and everyone else hated me because I lied about my talent? They were on their guard whenever I was around. You think Jet and Desmond would just let me walk into their rooms and take their stuff?
That's true. We still haven't explained how she robbed two people.
Unless you can prove I had the chance to get all this stuff...
Fine. I'll show proof. Only you could obtain the items necessary for...
I got it.
Ava, you were well aware of the existence. For starters, everyone heard about Jet's battery.
Wait, so it's all my fault?
Since the dorms aren't locked, you could have easily snuck in and grabbed the battery while no one was inside. The battery is lightweight too, so you wouldn't have trouble. For the rest of your plan, the syringe and drugs are both readily available in the farm. You may not have known about its existence right away, but you still had it because you received his blackmail.
Eva? You knew my blackmail this whole time, and...
So what?
Huh?
So what if I knew? I wasn't the only one. Damon knew your blackmail as well.
Oh yeah, he read it out loud to everyone earlier, didn't he?
Damon knew almost everything I did. He knew where the items used in this murder were stored. He knew the layout of the boiler room and the storage closets. The only thing he didn't know is the one thing more important than any piece of physical evidence.
The hell are you talking about?
See, you still don't know. You still don't know that we never saw eye to eye.
Huh?
Eye to eye...
On Wolfgang. Damon saw the way Wolfgang scolded me and treated me like a bad guy, and he thought I hated him the same. But unlike Damon, I never wanted Wolfgang to die.
What the?
Whoa! That's a loaded accusation.
Not a first for this trial.
If you thought you saw the worst of Damon after the dummy trial, you underestimate just how low I practically risked my life pretending to be his ally. But in return, he let me see the extent of which is why I can tell everyone that Damon has Wolfgang's blackmail.
Oh, gosh.
Any reason you didn't tell us this earlier?
Well, I didn't think it was incriminating at first.
Not even when he refused to come forward about it?
That was weird, but I didn't want to make accusations at the time because it could have just been his ego talk. Only after watching him reject the taser gun over this dumb mechanism he made up did I realize I had potential.
Damon, do you have your blackmail? Don't worry about reading it out loud or anything. Just show the image.
Fine. I'll show it. But only the picture.
He's married.
Ingrid, Wolfgang doesn't have blue.
So, who is this then?
I mean, why else would the guy look like?
Given the year this photo was taken, these two people, look at what's printed at the bottom. April 17th. We know how old Wolfgang is because of the student reports.
But why his parents? Are they being...
You can't leave us hanging, Damo! You gotta read out what it says!
That's not what was asked of me. And even if I had to, I don't think someone who can't explain himself should have his secrets revealed to everyone.
Some things are better left
For the record, I know what Wolfgang's blackmail says. I don't think it's possible for anyone to hate someone like Wolfgang. He was always brave in the face of sheer adversity. Wolfgang challenged me to be a better person. And maybe Ava simply couldn't rise to it.
Don't listen to him! He's trying to divert everyone from the truth.
Even though Wolfgang and I didn't always see eye to eye, my respect for him and his talent, why would someone like me harm him? Me, who's been leading this trial much the same way I may have questioned the idea no one here would kill. But that doesn't make me someone who wants to see—
He does! He does want bloodshed! We have all the proof he's a cold-blooded killer! Wolfgang's blackmail, which—
But wasn't Damon playing—
Nothing he says should be trusted. Nothing he says about me.
It is odd that we place faith in a man who does not have faith in us. So much so, these discussions are mostly led by his own conjecture.
Damon isn't the killer, though. Why would he try to mislead anyone? Like, he and I were playing a game when the murder happened. And multiple—
Not to mention, the things he's been saying make a lot of—
Truth has no personal alliance.
Even if he wasn't here, we'd arrive at the same conclusion anyway.
Depends who you mean by we.
Then, you all still think I'm the—
Someone needs to be voted by the end of this.
Don't just say it like that!
Yes! My ears!
How would I know? How would I know when to drop it?
Drop what?
The battery! Damon says the killer dropped the battery when Diana was already in the boiler room. But how would I know when Diana was in the boiler room? It's not as if I could listen out for her. The music speakers are too loud. And the dining hall has no clocks, so it'd be impossible for me to know if it was 8:45 a.m.
Right. Only Mark's DJ pad had a clock.
Maybe Ava asked Mark for the time.
She never spoke to me.
We never spoke! I never even got up from my chair! Besides, how could I be sure Diana arrived on time anyway? If you can't explain how I knew when to drop the battery, then shut up! Be able to hear.
I got it.
The only way the killer would have known when to spring their trap was by seeing Diana enter the room. Any uncertainty would ruin the plan, and the dining hall was too loud to hear anything.
Trying to look into the boiler room through the vent is impossible.
This is it.
It's impossible to see anything from the vent, which means the only way anyone could see into the room was by using the school cameras.
Say what?
I don't understand how, but Ava must have used the—
Is she working with the
Are you kidding me? How the hell would I have access to the camera? Who cares about the camera? Who cares about the camera? I just wanted to. There's no proof I killed Wolfgang. Why would I kill anyone? Who cares about the camera? I didn't see anything. I just wanted to help. Who cares? Who cares about the camera? I didn't see anything. It's Damon who's suspicious. It's Damon who's suspicious. I thought you trusted me. Why would I kill anyone? I just wanted to help. This isn't fair. I just wanted to help. This isn't fair. I didn't see anything. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help. It's Damon who's suspicious. There's no proof. Why won't you believe me? It's Damon who's suspicious. Who cares about the camera? Who cares about the camera? Who cares about the camera? I didn't see. This isn't fair. Why would I get Who cares about the camera? I didn't see anything. There's no proof I killed Wolfgang. It's Damon who's suspicious. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help. This isn't fair. There's no proof I killed Wolfgang. This isn't fair. I just wanted to help. How could I access the security camera?
It's over, Ava. We know the truth.
No! Don't kill me!
What you said was true, Ava. Whether or not the trap works depends on if the killer can see inside the boiler room. Which begs the question, how does the killer see inside? They can't just get on their knees and peek through the vent. Everyone in the dining hall would notice. Besides, the vent probably offers very little in the way of an actual view of the room.
Exactly! It's impossible!
Right. It's impossible. If I switch perspectives, your entire argument comes
What do you mean?
Ava assumes I'm taking only one factor into account. Her position at the time of Wolfgang's. Little does she know that in ruling out that factor, she's led me straight to a certain item which could have granted her the ability to see inside the boiler room. An item that, like the chemical smell, only makes sense when all of the game console she brought with her to the tournament.
Ava had a game console?
She wanted to get in the spirit of the tournament without being directly involved. But when every other option has been ruled out, what else can we look to but the one that's yet to be addressed?
Are you saying she saw inside the boiler?
So it played live footage of the room?
Sounds like a stretch.
If I'm wrong, Ava should be able to prove her. Go on, Ava. Show us the con.
Huh?
I don't think she has the council on her, dude.
She has to. She never had an opportunity to slink away and dispose.
Well, what about the black?
When the blackout first hit, people were disorientated for about a minute at most. Ava likely spent between then and now. She's never been alone. The only exception was when she and I split up to investigate the dining. However, the laundry room, dining hall, and the janitor closet, that room has been locked for days now. She obviously, which means I must still be. Like I said earlier, if I'm wrong about the console, you can take it out right now.
What are you waiting for? Quit hiding the stupid thing and show it!
You're just trying to make me look bad. You don't know what you're talking about. You're jealous of me and my talent. That's all you are.
Hey!
Why not just pull out the console?
Yes, show us the console and then you'll be done with this.
No! Eh? I don't have to show anyone anything.
That's the most suspicious thing you could say.
It's not suspicious.
That's obviously a lie.
Why go through the effort of mentioning Wolfgang's blackmail if you won't...
Now that I think back on it, Ava, I thought it was weird. Coming all the way over to the dining hall when she could...
Well, where did she? We should discuss those details before continuing any more with these accusations.
She said she won it from Tozu's gotcha.
Seems natural you would stock that machine with dangerous items.
Between 14 impossible culprits and one possible killer. Ava, you're the only one we can vote for.
That's such twisted logic. You're going to vote for me without being completely...
There's no need to be completely sure.
In case anyone still doubts Ava is the killer, I'll go through the case, and once all the pieces are laid out for everyone to see,
This is how it happened.
This case was directly incited by the motive Tozu introduced, in which everyone amidst the chaos that spawned. The killer saw an opportunity. They sent letters to two people, Wolfgang Akide, who they planned to kill. Wolfgang and Diana were asked to meet in the boiler room in 2 days' time. Wolfgang's letter told
the messages threatened to expose our blackmail, so we had no choice.
At this point, the killer probably knew the way they were, hence how they reacted to the following morning. It was revealed that Cassidy and Jen.
The point was for people to spend time together and not think murdery thoughts. And how? The killer emboldened their own plans and made it so the tournament would happen at—
Did you just agree with yourself?
Both Wolfgang and Diana turned down the offer, which must have been music to the killer. The killer took this as a sign to commence the next phase. Later that evening, they went downstairs to the boiler room.
Though it might be more accurate to call it the killer wrapped an extension cord as tightly as they could around a— I imagine the battery must have been sitting on top of the generator. The
killer avoided opening the boiler room vent for this segment, probably because they knew I'd remember it being closed.
A crucial part of the killer's plan would involve sliding the cord through the boiler room vent, so they could then walk upstairs to the dining hall and tie the protruding part of—
Funnily enough, the killer was going to be needed in the—
Yeah, to help Cass and me rearrange the dining hall. We were saving the whole thing for next morning, but they convinced us to do—
Their intentions were threefold. Create an alibi, hide the vent, after which they'd return to the boiler room and suspend the battery.
Which brings us to today. Knowing better than to head downstairs without protection, Wolfgang went to the kitchen, and Toshiko didn't notice a knife on him when the two met in the hallway, so he must have hidden it in his—
Wolfgang arrived inside the boiler room at 8:15 a.m., exactly like his letter requested.
And he got smacked right in the head with that steel rolling pin.
A syringe was then used to inject Wolfgang with a sleeping drug, ensuring he would remain—
The killer might have, left the taser on the floor around this time.
Yeah, the taser they swiped from my dorm. They must have decided to raid the place after receiving my blackmail. If I'd heard about the taser sooner, I could have gotten rid of it.
Save the angsting for later, will you?
Anyway, back on topic. Wolfgang was left to lie in the partially flooded area of the boiler room.
They didn't care about the equipment. They just wanted to put a speaker next to the vent, because it would drown out—
Don't forget the digital clock! They wanted to get there before that became available.
My letter said to meet at 8:45 a.m. So I made sure to close the door behind me.
Bad idea. Killer flipped the doorknob so that the lock was on the outside. You locked yourself in.
The room was really dark too. I didn't even see the suspended battery. He got up on his feet all of a sudden, and he started I tried to keep him calm and asked him to come over to me.
The drugs probably gave him a frightening hallucination.
He was screaming at me, and I was screaming back. No one from the tournament could— At one point, I even picked up the taser. But then I threw it—
And that's when the killer decided it was time. Having set their chair to recline, they were able to casually reach down and close the vent. This lowered the extension cord, causing the car battery to enter the water. Wolfgang, who was still standing in the water. The battery itself exploded upon reacting with the water, which the killer was likely banking on as a way to destroy evidence. All of this happened right under my nose. No one could have guessed that someone present at
The explosion also damaged the generator and caused the blackout.
Not for long, though. We quickly came back to our senses and agreed to look.
I used a hairpin to unlock the boiler, but you guys had already made it down.
That's when you say you ducked around the corner, and only after everyone went inside the closets did.
It's a good thing she did. Otherwise, we would have wrongly assumed Diana was the killer. This complicated scheme calls to mind only one person. One person who just so happened to be sitting. That person is you. It's over, Ava.
It's not fair.
My blood is rushing!